हर हर महादेव। सबको मेरा नमस्कार। कैसे हैं आप सब लोग? आज जो पॉडकास्ट मैं आपके लिए लेकर आई हूँ उसमें मैं आपके लिए कुछ बहुत खास प्लैनेट्स और उनकी मूवमेंट्स के बारे में बताने वाली हूँ, विच आर गोइंग टू हैव अ ह्यूज इम्पैक्ट ऑन यू in the next 5 to 6 months. I have already been talking about Saturn going retrograde on 17th of June, which has brought a great turmoil everywhere in our personal lives, in our professional lives, in the society, on the country level, in the weather. So हर जगह ये जो शनि retrograde हुए थे, इनका हमारे जीवन में बहुत बड़ा प्रभाव हुआ है, because Saturn retrograde means that you have to go back and review and somewhere recalculate everything that you have been doing. Today what I am going to discuss is something even more interesting. Today I am discussing about Venus being in Leo and Venus going retrograde in Leo on 7th of July, and Venus and Mars are already in Singh Rashi, which means Venus and Mars are already together in the sign of Leo, which is ruled by the Sun. And obviously we know that Sun is like the king, and Venus is to do with your luxuries, Venus is to do with your love relationships, Venus is to do with your house and your cars, and all the businesses related with Venus means the food businesses, the spas, the salons, all these kind of businesses. The Bollywood industry is a lot to do with Venus. And Mars, which is together with Venus, is, when I look at it professionally, it means it is the real estate, क्योंकि उनको भूमि पुत्र कहा जाता है. In relationships, it's the brother, it's the brother-in-laws. In your body, Mars signifies the blood, the heart, a lot of ailments which are to do with fire. You know, sometimes when you have some skin issues and there is a sudden burst in your acne or pimples and things like that, so that is all to do with Mars. So when these two planets are together in the sign of Leo, there is something special happening. And then there is something else which I want to talk about, which is Ketu. You know, usually we will not talk about Rahu and Ketu till the time they change their major axis after 18 months. But today I want to talk about Ketu, who has shifted itself from Swati Nakshatra to Chitra Nakshatra. Now this is extremely interesting. So all the people who find themselves in a Kal Sarp Yog, who are experiencing a Ketu Mahadasha, or they have Shani and Ketu together in their charts, or Ketu and Rahu in some way or the other, you've been told that they play an important role in your chart. And of course for all the others at the individual level, country level, world level, everyone should understand what Ketu in Chitra Nakshatra is going to do. Now let's understand one by one, why am I going to talk about Venus and Mars in Leo, and why am I going to talk about Ketu being in Chitra Nakshatra? So let me start one by one and let me tell you what these changes are going to do. One thing more I want to mention to all of you who follow my podcast and my predictions is that when I study how the Gochar is going to behave and how the planets are going to behave, I usually like to stress on the possibility side, that how we are able to understand the predictive part and then use that prediction to create possibilities in our life. That is very, very important, and that is the aim of Jyotish or Vedic astrology. Now the West has started using a lot of our predictions and how the Shastras say and what our astrology says, and you know, they have been using it to an extent, misusing it also to a larger extent, because obviously they find it very charming and they find it very interesting, but they don't know the roots very well. So that's where somewhere we get attracted to maybe a white skin speaking over YouTube, but we don't understand that their knowledge could be very superficial. Though they speak very well, they have that gift of talking very well spoken in English, but at the same time they're not very well aware of the roots from where it comes, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Shastras, the ancient scriptures. So I would say that when you want to listen to somebody and follow, please make sure that the source is not just credible but also authentic. Credibility is different and authenticity is completely different. So let's understand Venus and Mars in the sign of Leo. As in my past podcast, I did tell you that Leo, which is Singh Rashi, and this is all moon Rashi, okay? This is nothing to do with your sun sign, this is all your moon sign. So for all the people who have their moon placed in Leo, there is something very special for all of you in the next couple of months and maybe 1.5 to 2 years, is that you're blessed with a special energy, and if you're able to put the right spiritual value in your life, in your work, in your family, you have no idea how much growth you can get. And when I say growth, I just don't mean financial growth. असली ग्रोथ वो होती है जब आप जीवन के हर क्षेत्र में आगे बढ़ते हैं, यहाँ तक कि सेल्फ ग्रोथ सबसे पहले आती है. So for all the people who are Leos, a big what can I say, a big green flag here to them, that please put in your best intent, your spiritual values in your work, family, everything, and see that how nicely you will be placed as leaders, as parents, and whatever, wherever you are. Because usually what I'm seeing right now is that the sign Leo is getting involved everywhere, directly or indirectly. Anyways, now Mars and Venus is in the sign of Leo, and Venus is going to be retrograde in that sign. So retrograde again means a phenomena where the planet, it looks as if the planet is moving in the backward direction. Now Venus is Shukra, Daitya Guru Shukracharya, responsible for all the material wealth, love relationships, everything which is to do with Lakshmi is Venus. It also rules certain businesses. So when Venus goes retrograde, and let me tell you something about Venus, that Venus in Singh Rashi in Leo is going to give you some special results. Now, as I say that, Jupiter comes back to its own place after 12 years, and I often say that when a planet crosses the same Rashi where it was when you were born, then it will give you special results. So all the planets have their own orbit cycles. So similarly, Venus has its orbit cycle of 8 years. When Venus comes at the same place, at the same spot where it was at the time of your birth. So when I say 8 years, I also mean that you need to probably go back every 8 years and check what happened in your life 8 years back, and that will get repeated in some form or the other, good or bad, both. But if you have, so here we are also talking about Shani combining with Venus. So if your karma has changed, if you have made some amendments in your life, then obviously you can compare the past 8 years, and then you can say that yes, definitely the 8 years before these 8 years were not that good, but these 8 years were okay, and now the coming 8 years will be much better. But usually there is a 8-year cycle. So if I just put some years to it, I'm talking about 1991, I'm talking about 1999, then I'm talking about events that happened in 2007, then I'm talking about events that happened in 2015, and then I'm talking about events that are going to happen now in 2023. So when Venus is going to be retrograde, it is going to go towards Cancer. Okay, and Cancer is ruled by the moon. It's a watery sign. So which means that technically it's becoming more volatile now for some time. So you need to mellow down a little bit. You need to get extremely humble. You need to understand that because it is with Mars, I'm also talking about the real estate industry, which is going to show superficial price rise. And all these are, all these are situations which are very, very temporary. So you need to be extra cautious in making your investments. Don't get carried away by what the market looks right now. The market is extremely volatile, and you will see the market spinning and changing after September, October. So please be extremely careful and extremely wary, especially while you are investing in places like real estate or some food businesses or trying to open a restaurant. Suddenly, it's like sometimes people just they're watching Instagram and they're seeing so many food businesses doing well, and then they will come and ask me that can we open a salon or can we open a restaurant and all of that. So just be a little careful, because that's not how you plan a business related to Venus or Mars. These are extremely important energies in your life, which are not meant to give you short-term gains, but they are there to give you gains so that your 2-3 generations can benefit from all that. So you have to be extremely cautious. Also, when I'm talking about Venus and Mars, and now Venus going retrograde, so I'm also looking at Saturn aspecting all this. Saturn is sitting in Aquarius, aspecting this, because Leo is just 180 degree to Aquarius. So Saturn is sitting in Aquarius. Now what is that doing? That is also somewhere creating a yoga for accidents. So you have to be extremely careful, because Saturn and Mars, often I say when I see them in someone's individual charts, I do say that you're more prone to accidents, more prone to conflicts, more prone to conspiracies. So be extremely careful. And in fact, this is a warning that I am also giving to Leo, that आप किसी कॉन्स्पिरेसी का शिकार हो सकते हैं. आप अपने आप को थोड़ा बचा कर चलें, नेगेटिव लोगों से, फालतू एनर्जी से आप अपने आप को टोटली बचा कर चलें. So Saturn aspects is trying to bring accidents. Jupiter Rahu is also looking at this combination, and which is not bad. I feel that is absolutely good, because Jupiter is Devon ke Guru, and Rahu is also trying to behave like Jupiter. So right now this aspect is not bad at all. But because Cancer is a water related sign and moon rules it, so I've been telling you since my last 2 podcasts that I do see extreme weather conditions. I do see water related issues and water related problems happening across. I do see waterborne diseases also. बट बिकॉज शुक्र जो है वो संजीवनी उसको कहा जाता है, तो क्योर भी आ जाएगा. अगर कोई वायरस आया तो उसकी दवाई, उसका क्योर भी आ जाएगा. बट एट द सेम टाइम आई फील दैट it will be a concern, and along with that, because Cancer is a lot to do with your relationships and how you're feeling and how you're behaving. So I do see that some relationship disasters can also happen. So people who have a lot of expectations from relationships or are in relationships, because whenever Mars and Venus comes together, I do see that people often get very lustful, and they can engage themselves and indulge themselves in some sort of form of tamas, and sometimes it's also extramarital affairs or things like that, which obviously is pap according to our shastras. So all these things can just grow, and you will find yourself extremely disheartened, disappointed. In fact, I always say that when we look at these planets and we analyze that what house takes care of your extramarital, your love relationships, and it's very clear that your marriage house is very different from your love relationships, your extramarital affairs. So which means that God himself, the Kal Purush Kundali itself, is very clear and says that marriage is a very pious combination between two people. And when you're indulging in something outside of marriage, obviously, without a doubt, whatever the need is, you are accumulating some form of sin. Now I'm coming to the second major aspect, which I say is very interesting for me, because Ketu is also on 7th of July, Ketu has also entered into Chitra Nakshatra, and it's going to be there for a couple of months. Now, Ketu is in Libra, we know that, and Rahu is in Aries. And now finally this axis is going to change in November, and they're going to go one step behind. So it's an axis. Rahu and Ketu are always 180 degree to each other. And right now, for the past few months, they have been in Libra and Aries. And in November, now finally, they are going to go to Virgo and Pisces. So which means that there is going to be a shift in this axis. So whenever there's a Rahu-Ketu shift, there are huge shifts in the cosmic energies in our individual lives as well. Now, Chitra Nakshatra, the Lord of Chitra Nakshatra is Mars again. So can you see that how Mars, Venus, Sun are all somewhere just coming together? This permutation combination is what I wanted to explain to you. So Chitra Nakshatra is ruled by Mars, and the Lord of this Nakshatra is Vishwakarma, who is the celestial architect. Now Ketu is definitely going to behave good because it's in Libra and it's in Chitra Nakshatra now. Nakshatras are very important. Usually astrologers will just read the Rashis and just read the chart superficially, but Nakshatra astrology is extremely accurate. I think I like to do Nakshatra astrology more than, because sometimes planets, probably you've just gotten so used to just understanding what this planet is going to do in which Rashi and etc. etc. But when I look at Nakshatras, it is extremely intriguing because it just puts everything in place, So Ketu in Libra and entering Chitra Nakshatra is so important for me because Ketu is coming into Mars lordship now, and we already see that Mars is playing a big role nowadays. And also because Ketu is the Moksha Karak. We often relate Ketu to be headless and to be the Moksha Karaka. And that's why in Ketu Mahadasha of 7 years, I often warn people that it can just put you off track. You can just get into bad company. You will just do everything wrong, because ideally, if you look at somebody who's headless, means that you don't have a head. And that's the reason why all the scriptures say that when you experience Ketu, you should only and only get spiritual, because that's the only safe place for you. That's your go-to, because only a guru, only your spiritual quotient is, you can put that head on, essentially on this headless body, and say that, okay, now you'll go in the right direction, because everything else, everybody else can misguide you. So when Ketu, which is the Moksha Karaka, goes into Chitra Nakshatra, it starts getting different kind of results. But what do I see? I see that जो सिंहासन पर बैठा है राजा, उसके लिए एक मुश्किल दौर शुरू हो रहा है. Now this means literally the heads of the country. This means all the leaders, the big leaders across. For them, this is going to be a tough time. They will be evaluated by their people. They will be, they will actually be in a tough spot. Their own people will put them in a tough spot. This will happen worldwide. Now, this phenomena is something which is going to happen on the country level across, even in India. The ruling parties, the leaders are going to have a tough time because Ketu is a very, very important energy. Now, Ketu in Libra is also going to affect relationships in your family, in your teams, in your neighborhood. And, because this is something like a churning that's going to happen. And everything, I just feel it's funny that we are talking of being in Kali Yuga Pratham Charan, the first phase of Kali Yuga, and I just see that everything has become so cyclic. Like we always spoke about a cycle in astrology also, that how a planet comes back to where it used to be in 12 years, sometimes in 8 years, sometimes in 18 years, sometimes in 29 years. But it's funny that how these cycles have become such a strong phenomena that all of us are experiencing day to day, where people are now ready to understand that why suddenly they had problems in their life. And I try to explain, and people do understand that how whatever they did, good and bad, is cyclic. But the funny part is that because being Kali Yuga first phase, everything has kind of happened on a fast forward mode. So all the good things are also happening fast forward, and all the wrong things also you're getting back like fast forward. Yesterday you did something wrong and today you're getting the result. So that's how the cosmos is going to behave now onwards. So again, I'm trying to tell all of you that let spirituality be your respite. Let Guru Gyan and God be with you all the time. Be very humble. Don't keep your ego, because there are some people, I still feel that, it's very tough for them to ask for help. They have always lived in this illusion that they know it all or they are fully equipped. But they don't realize that actually this is their biggest block, that they have never reached out to the right source for help. So because of that, either they start getting trapped in something which is very pseudo, and sometimes it's not even asking for help, because it's self, everything is self. So, surfing all day, trying to pick something from here and there. But our scriptures have clearly said that you cannot proceed in life without the presence of a guru. So Swati Nakshatra was giving Ketu extremely selfish tendencies. So here is how you can evaluate your life. So for the past couple of months or year and a half, you can observe yourself. If you have been extremely selfish, extremely ruthless, just thinking about yourself, your money, as long as you make money, it's okay. As long as you're sorted, as long as your children are in a good school, I don't care. As long as your parents are fine, I don't care. As long as you don't have COVID, you don't care. If you've had these kind of thoughts, so it just means that you have been an extremely selfish person. If you've exploited your people, if you've exploited your family, if you've exploited people around you, it just means that you have been affected by Ketu being in Swati Nakshatra, which has made you extremely self-centered. And as soon as Ketu enters Chitra Nakshatra, it is going to bang, bang, bang. So which means that it will thrash you left, right and center, and it will make sure that you realize that this is not how you live your life. Okay? So, everything that I notice right now is cyclic. सब चीजें एक साइकिल में बंध गई हैं, और अगर हम अपने आप को इस साइकिल के साथ अलाइन नहीं करेंगे, अगर हम अपने आप को इस साइकिल के साथ नहीं चलाएंगे, तो कहीं ना कहीं हम अपना नुकसान कर बैठेंगे. सभी राशियों पर इसका फर्क पड़ेगा. ऑल राशिज विल एक्सपीरियंस दिस. लेकिन कुछ ऐसी राशियां हैं जो अगर अपने आप को ठीक कर लें, जैसे सिंह राशि के बारे. सिंह राशि इज इंट्रीगिंग मी फॉर सम टाइम. फॉर द पास्ट 3 months, a lot of the attention is going on Singh Rashi, on Kumbh Rashi. Okay. Now you need to understand that if you are able to put your good energy and intent, purest intent, then I can assure you that your gains will be 300%. It's never about you. It's always about your family. It's always about your people. This is your dharma. So everything, even a mokshakarak planet like Ketu is suggesting, do your dharma. अपने परिवार को, जब तक आपका परिवार खुश नहीं है तो आप क्या करोगे इस पैसे का या इस मान सम्मान का, right? In fact, in our scriptures, so it is clearly said, there are many stories and many bhajans also where we say that if you've made a house and you don't have a family, what is the use of that house? If you buy a huge car and you don't have friends and family to sit in it and enjoy it, what is the use of that? So somewhere I feel that everything which is happening now in the first phase of Kali Yuga is already mentioned in our scriptures where people said that there will be no strong family setup, there will be no happiness in professions and work, Everything is almost becoming a struggle now. It's a sad thing to see. Everything is becoming a struggle. But nevertheless, I really feel that if you keep attending the satsangs, if you keep attending the discourses, if you completely surrender slowly, I feel that you are going to find yourself to be in a much better place. And even though there's going to be this whole turmoil happening, and there's going to be a hurricane, and there's going to be ये सब आंधी तूफान आता रहेगा, लेकिन अगर आप घास बन जाओगे ना, घास को किसी आंधी तूफान से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, because the grass is so grounded, it is so humble, that it is able to keep itself very secure despite everything. The threat is always to these big trees and big plants, and they get completely uprooted. For grass, it doesn't make a difference. So let's try and be grass which is more humbled, more grounded, a lot of values, a lot of spiritual gestures for everybody around us, and of course finding the right guidance, the most authentic guidance, so that we can live our life happily. Thank you very much all of you for listening. Har Har Mahadev.